Hey folks, Evil DM here. Another episode of the Evil DM podcast. I don't know if this is going to be a daily thing or every other day thing or a weekly thing. I don't know. It's again going to be based upon how I feel at the time and what I feel like talking about. So today's topic, I had been, going over some of my materials, and I like to play a lot of D6 games from West End Games, such as Ghostbusters or Star Wars, and even the modern setting or this, the space setting and the fantasy setting, which are interesting. I can never get fantasy to really click, though I really want to, because I like fantasy games the most overall. I do like my sci-fi games, yeah, but I like fantasy. Fantasy is what I grew up playing. I grew up playing D&D. D&D was always my go-to and always my comfort zone. But I like to branch out in other games every once in a while. And D6 has always provided that outlet for it. I mean, I have Palladium games, but the mechanics are sometimes so complex that it makes you want to rip your hair out because it's a weird system. But back to my original topic here, Mini 6. It has been out for quite some time by Anti-Paladin Games. You can go right to their website and download the bare bones edition, or go through DriveThruRPG and download it there for free. It's an entire system in itself, and it basically is a really good system that really breaks down D6 to bare bones, so to speak, and makes it really easy to play the game. It does have modifications in the game, so if you're used to the traditional D20 combat system, you can make static combat numbers for defenses instead of having everybody roll. And when you do D6 combat, obviously you attack, and then after you attack, you have to roll to see if you actually dodge or not dodge, and then some people don't care for all that rolling. And what Mini 6 does is allows you to have the static combat, which I did try, and I felt like it was kind of betraying the D6 system when doing that. And I was just being lazy doing my D20 system combat. It's really how you want to play. But I think that Mini 6 has a lot of promise. And I know there was a couple systems that people had designed around Mini 6 that branched upon it. And I would like to actually publish something with Mini 6 and get a setting going, but I'm not sure exactly what I want. When I sit down to write it, the idea just doesn't come out the way I want it to. Like, how you have a concept in your mind, and then when you start to sit down and actually put it on paper, it's just like, no, that's not what I envisioned. No, it's a little more work than I thought it would be. Yeah, I don't know. So that's basically what happens to me a lot of times when I write something. When I write something for MAzes Perils, I sit there and I'm just like, oh yeah, I got this great idea. I jot down the note on my phone, and then when I finally get in front of a computer, I'm sitting there staring at a blank screen. That's why I've not seen any real movement on it. I did, for those of you that have asked me out there, and while it's not a lot, it is a few, have asked me what's going on with it since it has moved away from Mobius Games and the other company, I can't think of the name, but Mobius Games. It has basically been sitting on the shelf. I tried revamping it a couple times because I did not like the way it came out. I did not like how the system looked when I was trying to do the second edition, or the revised and expanded edition, as you wanted to call it. I think that's what we were calling it at the time. And it didn't work. I didn't like it. I was just like, It just basically felt like I took the game and I was adding a few more pages onto it just for the fact of making a new edition, and that's not something I really wanted to do. I think the deluxe edition, while not perfect, is a pretty decent edition itself. Maybe making a rules compendium for it and updating the rules somewhat might be a good idea, which is coming to me now, but I'm sure once I sit in front of the computer it'll be a blank. So I'm not sure exactly how I wanted to move forward on it, so I've kind of shelved it, and I went back to another system that I had written in like 2015-16, which was called Cinematic 8, and that's what I've picked it up again, and I've revamped that, and been playtesting that with a few people online, and it's pretty interesting how I did it, and they seem to enjoy it, so I think I'm going to move forward with that and see how that works out. Hopefully, it'll be accepted. Hopefully, it won't not get accepted. I want it to be accepted, but hopefully some people will look at it and be like, oh, this is kind of cool, and maybe they'll pick it up and they'll try playing it. And it's a fun game. It's meant for, will it be a long-term type game? Probably not. I think it's more of maybe a short-term campaign, for a couple weeks. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to make it long-term, as in years and years, which is possible with any game. I mean, I've heard people say that D6 games are not long-term either, but in my book, they can be, and they are. So why not try this Cinematic 8? But back to Mini 6 again. That was, we started this whole thing as I'm flying around that airport, as my wife would always say. It is a really good system, and I know it's been out since like 2011 or so, and I have spoke upon it a couple times here and there during my D6 conversations with people. I don't think I've actually thrown out full support in the podcasting, blogging sphere, whatever you call it. But yeah, if you haven't heard of it and you're just hearing of it now, or you have heard of it and forgot about it, definitely pick it up and give it a try and see what it can apply to. They do have a couple settings in the back of the book that are just kind of not really detailed, but detailed enough settings that will allow you to kind of generally write something based upon the information. They have a fantasy setting with a kind of a map and a couple things going on there, which can seed some really good ideas, and it has seeded some really good ideas for some D6 campaigns that I've ran. And there's also a fake wannabe Star Wars type setting in the back there that they did, so take a look at that. It's kind of interesting. And then they have some other sci-fi ones, and there's a kind of a detective one. All these things can be really expanded upon and made into some really good settings, but they didn't really do anything with Mini 6. I don't know why the author never did, and I've contacted him a couple times and asked him what was going on, and he kept saying, oh yeah, we're working on a new edition. And I guess the person that he was working with, he stopped working with. I'm not sure the exact reason what happened between them. Maybe they just moved away or something. I don't remember exactly what happened, and I'm probably quoting it wrong, but whatever. I just know that he wasn't working with the original person, and he was working on his own to redo it, and that was like 2 years ago. So I don't know what exactly is going on with it. Hopefully he'll get around to fixing it and doing a second edition or a full edition or whatever edition you decide to do. But if you do look, there are some Mini 6 campaigns available at Drive-Thru. I think one of them's called Breach World, and it did have a Kickstarter a couple years ago, and it's kind of, if you look at it, it kind of reminds me of Rifts. And in fact, he does quote Kevin from Palladium in there, who actually looked it over and thought it was fabulous and a good tribute hat tip to Rifts. So I mean, he got Kevin's blessing, so why not? But with that said, I think I'm going to head out and just check out Mini 6, Anti-Paladin Games, and tell me what you think. Don't forget to, if you like these, like them. If you want to comment or leave a voicemail, I guess you can hear at anchor.fm for the Evil DM. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I'm sure you folks will figure it out if you even care to do that. So keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.